Good morning, world. We are in Kevin's shop. I'll show you the shop in just a second. Working on this interestingly modified old BSA. What year is this, Kevin?
This is, well,
Oh, that's right.
the frame is a 65,
Uh-huh.
the motor is a 71,
Uh-huh.
okay? The tank was a 68,
Okay.
and the blinkers and wiring appears to be Japanese.
Okay, works for me. Okay, so we would call this a Bitsa bike. Bitsa, B-I-T-S-A, bits of this, bits of that, make up a motorcycle. And so Kevin's cleaned it up a lot, and actually cleaned it up a lot. And we're going to just now strip this wiring off of it completely. I've started stripping the wire. That's all wires clipped off, and the big bundle is about to be pulled out. And we're going to walk over here. The engine appears to be in really good condition. He cleaned it down with S100. Looks good. And here's the wires hanging out, going all over the bike. And a lot of yellow wire. And we're going to replace this with wiring that is at least somewhat appropriate as color code. Ordering a bunch of parts right now. This is Kevin's shop. Hello, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning.
He's got a nice shop here, lots of light. That's very nice. All of his tools over there. And good quality tools. Bought a lot of special tools. So that's what we're doing this morning. I'll give you an update when we get the wiring on the bike, and you can see what we did. Okay, this is the joy of working on a Bitsa bike. This is a big Japanese switch. Goes on the left-hand side of the bike, controls the horn, high beam, low beam, and turn signals all in one unit. It's a nice unit, and everything seemed to work except for high-low beam. We could get high, but we couldn't get low. So here we are inside a switch that's a non-repairable item, and Kevin has taken it apart and is in there now cleaning the contacts with a X-Acto blade and some little water dry sandpaper and some contact cleaner. I'll show you those contacts. It's kind of cool. All right, hold it sort of sideways a little bit. And look at those contacts, how clean they are now. They were corroded. And this part over here is the slide that goes back and forth. And that's the contact that contacts between the other two contacts. I got it. So, really cool. So we're going to clean this up, put a little lightweight grease on it, lubricant, put it back together, and theoretically we should have high beam, low beam when we get done. So these are the types of things that you really can't quantify. We've probably spent 2 hours on this switch. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and it is not chargeable time really, because we're cleaning something and repairing something that's a non-repairable part in lieu of trying to figure out a replacement switch of some brand that would fit up there and do the job. So this is just what we refer to as the fun just never stops. Okay, we're going to do a test now. Well, it's been an interesting morning. We made a lot of progress on the bike. We got the high beam, low beam, turn signals, horn switch working perfectly. We had to take it apart and actually clean the internal contacts and put that back together, so that's working. We've got it hanging here. These are the wires that are coming out of the switch. We have them allocated. This is the horn. These are the turn signals here, and these are the high-low beam wires going to the headlight. These wires are not used, and once we absolutely, positively, definitely know for a fact, we will put shrink tubing over those to seal them off. They worked on the original bike this switch assembly was made for, and we don't use them. We have built 2 main wire bundles going to the front and rear from the front to the rear of the bike. They are in place. The wiring bundles come into the headlight, and here they are right here, all terminated and ready to go. Mostly from that switch, and we have power coming up as battery and power going back as ignition. Turn signals, everything there. These wires come off this little toggle switch up here. I'm going to make that with Center is off, back is ignition on, forward is ignition on with lights. So we're doing the whole job with this one toggle switch. We will wire in these 3 lights. We're probably going to make this white one to be power on oil pressure indicator. And one of these, maybe the blue one, I don't know, this, the red one, one of those will be for the turn signal flasher, and the other will be for...
well, we can make one oil pressure, one ignition, and one flasher.
Okay, ignition, oil pressure, and
Yeah.
flasher. Yeah. Let's see. So these wires are all ready to be put together. This is a bundle of ground wires that are soldered in, and we'll run a good ground to this point and then run these wires off to the individual circuits that need a good solid ground. These are the turn signal wires just coming in here. And so we've made some good progress. We'll just walk back here, nothing to show you here. The bike's back, this part of the bike, these are the wires that are going to go to the tail light assembly. These wires will go down to the brake switch. These are the alternator wires that will go to the rectifier regulator. The battery will go here. It will get its power from the rectifier regulator and send it north to the front, and the ignition will come back and be spread all over the bike. So the wiring's fun, and it's about half done, and we'll go ahead and finish as much as we can. Then we'll hold until we get the oil tank in place and start mounting the ignition components. We did draw up as we went along the wiring diagram, and it looks like this. It's kind of, well, it's as good as it'll get. It's a nice little wiring diagram explaining how we're doing this. And we'll give this to the client. All right, anything else that I forgot?
No,
All right,
moving along.
well, as we like to say, the fun just never stops. All right, it's about 4:20 in the afternoon. We've been working on the bike since 9 o'clock this morning doing the wiring. We've actually made a lot of progress. Believe it or not, this is actually progress. And it's actually quite neat once you look at the individual bundles that do individual jobs going to individual places. So it's all under control, even though it looks like it's radically not. Next, we're going to wire in all of these indicator lights, idiot lights. They'll be done next. We did wire in the turn signals, front and rear. We did wire in the horn. We actually wired in the oil pressure sender, which may or may not work. We soldered a wire on it to see if it will work. That'd be cool if it does. And what else? I'm tired. As I showed before, we've got the 2 main cables coming up here, and the tail end is pretty much like it was this morning. We'll worry about that next time we work on the bike, which is going to be a couple of days because we have parts on order, and we'll be working down at my shop tomorrow. So progress has been made, and by the way, more than once I've been asked the question, gee, wouldn't it be simpler just to buy a stock wiring harness and put it on the bike? The answer is no, especially not a highly modified bike like this. The stock wiring harness expects the ignition to be points. It expects the electrical rectifier and regulator to be separate items in different places. It expects the key switch to be in the normal position. It expects the light switches to be in the normal position. It expects the high beam, low beam, and horn switches to be in their normal positions. And by the time you modify a stock wiring harness and throw away about half the wires that just aren't used anymore, no, it's actually not easier to put on a stock harness. You have to make a custom harness like this. So we've worked on this one all day. By the way, I'll just show you, we've made several changes to the schematic, simplified some, and made it look just a whole lot better electrically. So here we are, just working away. And For Frank, I'm saying good night. Kevin?
Good night.
Good night.